Hello, friends. Welcome. Here's a cat. As you wait. So, let's see what we have to work with. I was able to pick up some fish. So we have some tuna and flounder. Let's see what else we can work with here. All right, got some radishes. Chives. One jalapeno. We have some plum tomatoes. An avocado. Some limes. Grapefruit. And some firm plums. So, what can we do with all of these? Well, ideally, since I have some fresh tuna, I was gonna make some sort of poke bowl or sushi, but with everything I have and the fact that this is fairly fresh fish, we're gonna make some ceviche today. So, ceviche is probably the most famous dish that you've heard of from Peru. Contrary to popular belief, it's not Japanese inspired, and originally it was just fresh white fish, salt, and some kind of spicy pepper. Now in the 1500s, when the Spanish came over, they introduced limes. So lime became a new staple ingredient of ceviche. Nowadays, we typically think of a basic ceviche as 5 ingredients. Some form of white firm fish, salt, a spicy pepper, onion, and lime juice. However, you can kind of work around some of these. For example, if you want to work with a different type of onion, if you want to work with a white onion, red onion, or shallot in my case, you can do that. There are just ways that you need to work with that onion to make it more mellow in flavor. And then we have a few things that we can garnish it with. We have avocados, we have radishes, chives. We have a jalapeno, which we can actually use for the spice, which is nice. And yeah. All right. So let's get to work. First things first, I'm going to leave the fish in the fridge until I'm ready to use them. Let's see what else I can do. Okay, nice. one of the most important things of the ceviche is leche de tigre, which is essentially the liquid that comes out of the fish that is mixed with the lime juice once you have it all put together. Now beforehand, we're going to enhance the flavor of the lime juice before we add it to the fish. So, I'm just going to use a celery stalk. Few slices of pickled ginger. And I don't really want to cut this up too much, just enough so that the flavors can be added to the lime. So in these cases, you don't have to really cut it up, you just kind of have to crush it. All right, add that to the bowl. Now we can work with the limes. If you don't have something to juice them with, take a fork, put it in, squeeze from the side, and move it up and down. Okay. Actually, to make this even easier on myself, before you even cut it, roll it out. This is going to break up some of the pulp inside so that the juice comes out easier. Now, it's important not to squeeze out the juice too hard, because then you're going to get some of the liquid from the pith to come out, which is the whitish rind on the inside, and that's going to make the juice slightly more bitter than you'd want it to be. Okay. And actually, I want to use a peeler. Later on in this dish, I want to use the zest of a lime as a little bit of garnish. You can use a zester if you want. I personally prefer to use a peeler. Make sure that when you're peeling the zest, try to peel it as shallow as possible so you get less of the pith. If you look here, you can kind of see that white part. I'm going to cut into that a little bit later, so it's mostly light white and mostly green. This is going to be good for color for the dish, as well as a bit of extra aroma of citrus. However, I don't have to peel all the limes. However, if you have extra lime peel, what you can do with it is zest it, freeze it, and use it for a later dish. Or if you want, you can actually blend it up and dry it out with some salt and then you can save it in a jar, and then you'll have a nice citrus scented salt to use for fish dishes or for salads, things of that nature. All right, so I'm going to get a bowl and save these deliciously smelling lime peel. Hey Garden, how's it going? So based on what I have, I'm making a ceviche with tuna and flounder. So essentially, it's a raw fish in kind of like a pickled salad. And what's gonna happen is that normally you wouldn't want to eat raw fish unless it's tuna. However, the acid in the lime juice that I'm using is going to essentially cook it. You can cook proteins in many different ways. Mainly we think of heat, but you can also technically cook or denature proteins with salt, acidity, other changes in pH like bases, and UV radiation and heat. So this time we're going to use acid. Now normally you'd only want to do this with fish that's really fresh. And what I have is the freshest fish I could find. Ceviche would be great to use, or to make ceviche with freshly caught fish. So let's say that you're out on the boat, you catch some nice fish, bring it home, make some ceviche. The fresher the fish, the better the ceviche is going to taste. You can make ceviche with any kind of seafood, really. I've seen it with shrimp, I've seen it with tuna, salmon, flounder, but typically you'd make it with firm white fish. I have tuna and flounder, so I'll make both. Two different types of way to present it, just because I think it'll look nice, and I have a lot of different garnishes. Yeah, I'm glad. Very nice. I'm glad you're here, Mocha. Nice to see you. Yeah, ceviche is great. Restaurant style ceviche will typically call for some form of sole, flounder, that sort of thing. And the biggest takeaway that I found from researching online ceviche a while ago was the acid to salt ratio is very important. And the simpler you can make it, the better. But I want to go a little bit fancy today because I happen to have a lot of nice vegetables that I can use for garnish. And I want to adopt an idea that I used for a previous dish. I made a plum salsa a while ago to go with some roasted zucchini, and I liked how the acidity played with the plum. So I want to incorporate plum into the ceviche. Now, I don't know if you were here earlier, but I was talking about how the first ceviche that was in Peru was just salt, raw white fish, and pepper. And then in the 1500s, when Spain came, they introduced limes, which made that an extra staple ingredient in ceviche. All right. I'll use another one. Now, I actually want to see how fancy I can make this with what I have. I might have a few tricks up my sleeve to make it look nicer. I'm glad. Now remember, when making ceviche, use the freshest fish you can, because even though the acid, quote unquote, cooks the fish, you're gonna get the best result with the freshest fish. Key way to know that you probably don't have the freshest fish you can find is smell it. Does it smell fishy? If it does, maybe find another fish. Or go catch one if you can. Hey Mad Dog, how's it going? Today we're making ceviche. So right now we have our brine, which is just going to infuse the lime juice flavor with a little bit of celery, some pickled ginger, and did I put anything else in here? Just those two for now. You know what? Why not? I'll put a little bit of garlic. All right, I'll show you 2 easy ways to peel garlic. Or actually, mainly 1 way. Step 1, get your garlic. Step 2, under the knife, crush. And typically you can just pull that away and you're good to go. If you still find that you have trouble taking it off, after you smash it, put it in a jar, close it, and shake it. That should take off most of the peel. So, I got this. Remember, we don't really cut it up, just want to infuse the flavor, so again, I'll smash it again. And we'll just add that in there. Mix it up a bit. Now, while that's going, I'm gonna organize what I have a little bit. And prepare the vegetable ingredients. Once I'm done with that, then I'm going to move on to the fish. So, ceviche calls for typically red onion, but you want to mellow out the flavor. So, what you can do with red onion to mellow out the flavor is 2 things. You can either peel off the first few layers, because typically the more bite of the onion comes from the outer layers. You can cut the slices and put them into ice water, leave them there for a bit. That also takes care of the extra taste it has. Or, in my case, if you have shallots, which are typically used for sauces, you can use shallots, because shallots are a mellower onion flavor. Just some nice thin slices of shallot. Put that in a bowl. I'll use the rest of this to add to the sauce. I just want them to be really specifically a specific cut, so I don't want to waste them. I'm going to add them to the lime juice, or the leche de tigre. Alright, next, jalapeno. Now, depending on how much you like spice, you can adjust that even if you already bought the pepper. There are a few ways. If you want a hotter pepper, you can A, leave the veins in and the seeds, and 2, you can put them over a flame and kind of char the outside skin. It's used a lot in different Hispanic dishes. Oh, that's great that you and your chemistry teacher have that, fun hobby that you guys share. That's really nice. Chemistry is probably the science class where you would learn more about cooking, followed by biology and then physics. So, I don't want this to be too spicy because this is still my first time making ceviche, and I'm not a very spicy kind of guy. So I'm gonna remove the veins and the seeds. Now, like I said, if you enjoy extra spice, you can either go for a hotter pepper, you can heat it up, or you can keep the seeds and the veins in. I will not. There are ways to work around spicy foods, though. If you find that you've made a food too spicy, there are ways around that. You don't necessarily have to water it down. You can add a sweetness to it, which kind of balances out the flavor profile of sour, salty, bitter, sweet, that sort of thing. Which is why honey sriracha is a very popular flavor. Sweet chili is another example of, how combining flavor profiles is very nice. Sweet and salty is a good one. Example would be like kettle corn or chicken and waffles, It's very useful to think about that sort of thing. Whenever you're making a sauce at home and you think it's missing something, think of that first. Am I missing a salty or a savory aspect that I want to have in this? Am I missing a spicy aspect? Am I missing a sweet, a bitter, or a sour aspect? Things to think about as you're tasting the food. One problem that I have as someone who likes to cook is I don't like to taste a lot as I go, just because, I don't know, I do a lot by eye and by feel. I should be tasting it more as I go, but it still ends up tasting really good at the end of the day. Now, I have my peppers here. We're obviously not going to have them this big. We don't want big chunks. We want them very, very small and fine. So there are 2 ways around this. We can either cut them really thin and long. That would be julienne or fine julienne, which is a French term for cooking or cutting vegetables very thin like a matchstick. Or what I think I'm going to do is brunoise. Brunoise is the term for probably the smallest or one of the smallest ways to cut veggies, which is after they're in this matchstick size, you dice them very small and finely. So let me get all of these together. Thanks so much for showing up, you guys. I really appreciate it. Guys and girls. Oh, Jesse. Nice. Oh, so you're from the famous show, Breaking Bad. I didn't know that. Yeah, to be honest, I probably get it wrong a lot when I do it by eye, but if you make the same dish over and over again, you'd be surprised how well you could do by working by eye. It's the same thing with, let's say that you're driving to a new location you've never been to, so you use the GPS, right? After you've done that trip a few times, you might not use the GPS as much because you've memorized the route. Think about it that way. You can start to kind of, do it by memory or by feel. Eventually, you're going to use the same kind of measurements over and over again, like a dash or a pinch of salt, or you'll remember instinctively how long you need to boil a certain kind of pasta. That same thing. And then a lot of it is also just trial and error. So here we have our not so fine julienne jalapenos. Now we're gonna make them brunoise. And I want very specific shaped ones. All the misshapen ones I'm just going to put into the lime juice. And here we have our brunoise jalapenos. So we'll put them in another bowl. Oh, and if you do make this at home, please don't cut yourself. Not just because cutting yourself is bad, but you're gonna be working with lime juice and that's gonna sting so much. You're not gonna have a fun time. Luckily, my fingers healed from a few weeks ago. I was trying to sew up some pants and I no longer have any puncture wounds on my fingers that would hurt me during this. And how do I know that? Because it doesn't hurt to handle lime juice. All right, so we have that now done. Next, something a little fun. Firm plum. This goes back to the philosophy of having a rounded flavor profile. So we have the sour. We're going to have the savory because of the salt. So let's use a plum for sweetness, shall we? Cut down the middle. There's a pit in the middle, so you cut around. And then opens up. I would not recommend doing the avocado technique of cutting in the middle to get the pit out. It doesn't have that much give and it's very small. You can just take it out with your fingers. So I'm going to use one plum and dice it to be part of the actual ceviche mixture. And the other plum I'm going to cut in a different way as a decoration. Hey fish, I'm here, I'm here. Yeah, where's your husband when you can't find him? All right. Fish, welcome. We're making ceviche with the fresh fish that we got today. Thank you guys for joining. I really appreciate it. It's nice to cook, you know, by yourself, just listen to some music, but it's also nice to have someone around to listen, talk to, that sort of thing. So, as long as you guys enjoy, I'm happy. Thank you. Also, if you have any questions, I'm not an expert by any means. but I'll do my best to answer any of them as they come in. Diced plum. The majority of this dish's prep time and cook time actually just comes from cutting up everything. Other than that, if you have everything prepped and ready, you can make ceviche in under a minute. Proper technique when I can help it, yeah. Speaking of cat paws, if you're lucky, you might see a cat or two trying to wonder what's going on. So, I'll pose a question to the chat. What is your preferred way to eat fish? Do you like to pan fry it? Do you like it in sushi? Do you like ceviche? What's your preference? Get the plums done. Okay, this one was an idea that I had, which should be interesting. First of all, I'm going to just peel a portion of this grapefruit. Might have a use for the peel. See there with the line. Now, one thing I've seen, which I thought was really cool, which probably can't do entirely this time, but I've seen people cut out portions of grapefruit, freeze the slices, and then once it's completely frozen, they smash it and they just sprinkle the little pulps on a dish. Very cool. All right, we'll chill here. Nice. That's unfortunate that you don't eat fish. Okay, okay, correct form of holding a knife. Honestly, it's whatever is more comfortable for you. I know a lot of people will just hold it like a tennis racket. Other people hold it with 2 fingers or 3 fingers on the knife. It really depends what you want to do. Ideally, rule of thumb is it comfortable in your hand? And is it not going to, slip from your hand? That's basically what you should be thinking of. This is a hold that I would do most of the time if I'm making sure to pay attention, which doesn't happen all the time. So now I am cutting away the entire grapefruit peel because I want to do something kind of special with the pulp inside. This is going to be a decoration of sorts. Again, you can save this, zest it, and then mix it with salt. That's good as like a citrusy salt. You can excrete the oil and use that as just like kind of a hand scent. You can infuse it in alcohols or even oils. Lots of uses. So next time you have some scraps of your fruits and vegetables, don't necessarily throw them away. See what you can do with them. You'd be surprised how good vegetable broth is from your scraps you freeze. And then you don't have to spend money on buying the fancy organic broth at the store. Yeah, no, Mad Dog, you're absolutely right. Like I said, if I remember to do the proper form, I will. But I haven't cut myself yet. Don't mimic what I do. Yeah, no, those are great. It's probably why I hurt myself stitching my pants, because I don't have proper form or regard for my fingers. Okay, so I have fully, or mostly fully, peeled this grapefruit. Put it in the sink now. I will get them later and store them, but for now, I don't want to waste all that time. Okay, now, I haven't done this before, but I saw it in a lot of gourmet plating, so I'm going to try it. I'm going to cut out little slices and see how neat they are. Now we have a very neat slice of grapefruit with no white parts. Very nice looking color, nice rosy pink. And we're gonna cut out a few of those for plating. Also, it's gonna add a nice bitterness and sweetness to the ceviche. So now we have sour, savory, sweet, and bitter. All right, I took all the desirable pieces I wanted out of it. I've essentially deboned the grapefruit, and I'll juice that later. All right. So, let's see what we got here. We've got the grapefruit slices. Yeah, boneless grapefruit. The plums, shallots, brunoise, jalapeno, and citrus zest. Now, let's see. All right, let's do some fancy plating with the radish. So, I want really thin slices for this radish. But I'm not confident I can get it as thin as I want and consistent with my knife. So, what am I gonna do? Use the peeler. I'm gonna keep the stem on for now as a handle so I make sure not to cut myself. No, I'm in a teaching program and I'll be teaching biology. We got fairly thin slices from that. Yeah, hopefully the cool teacher. Well, that's the idea, right? Like, I'm going to be teaching biology and, you know, hopefully near the beach. Bring them to the beach. There we go. Those are the slices I want. There we go. Look at that. Wonderful. So, I have a few fairly desirable cuts of radish here. Those look nice enough. But the ones that aren't as nice, I'm actually gonna try to cut them into matchsticks, or radish sticks, I guess you'd say. Radishes will give a nice contrast of color and a bit of a crunch. Now look at how thin those are. They're almost like, I wouldn't say sewing needles, but you know, you get the analogy. Very thin. So that'll be a little fun garnishing. The best tool to use for that sort of thing would be a mandolin, where you just kind of do this. You make like very potato chip thin slices. I don't have a mandolin, so, you know, make do with what you have. Don't go out, you know, blowing your budget on a lot of kitchen gadgets just because you want to make one specific thing. There's probably an alternative method that you can use until, you know, you're willing to really get into it. I will say though, food processors are amazing. That and toaster ovens. There we go. Real thin. Okay. I'm gonna do the same to the grapefruit rind. So I'm gonna take my knife and just kind of glance it over the top of it to take off some of that white pith I was telling you about. This is the same kind of method you would do to take off the skin of the fish. But I really like fish skin. Fried up, it's really crispy and nice, and it adds a nice flavor. Now, let's compare these two. With the white, and then almost none. That's what you want. The specks on my knife. Pretty sure this is just a regular chef's knife, copper edge. So it's not supposed to dull that quickly. It's from one of those infomercials. I don't have expensive knives. But I'll save up some money and get like a nice few $100 knife once I really have, you know, big spending money. Although I need to save up and pay off student loans and things of that nature. Get a house. Those come first before the knife. Although, you know, who's to say? Maybe I'll find a nice one on sale. There you have it. Zested without a zester. Yeah, bike money, definitely. But I have a road bike, so I'm happy with that. Same thing with the lime peel. Just going to try to take off as much white as possible. Lime peel? Yeah, Mad Dog. Sorry I don't have a... Jesus, $3,000 Japanese knife set. Yeah. That's, No. You could buy a used truck with that money. Gonna cut up an extra shallot. Favorite dish. Thanks, Mad Dog. This song is from an anime called Kids on the Slope. It's about, I believe, kids in the 1950s forming a jazz band together. Very cool. Very good. Would recommend. Favorite dish? French onion soup. Red cabbage salad. I like poke bowls a lot. Those are really good. There's so many good dishes. Vietnamese rolls. Those are really nice. Cut some of these plums smaller. Great, okay. Last thing before take out the fish is going to be the chives. Chives are gonna add a little bit of flavor, but mostly color as a nice garnish. You know what? I'm gonna make this easier on myself. And I don't care that it means my knife skills are bad. I've cut them in half so I can work with more at a time. And I'm gonna use scissors, because that's easier. Just level them out. I will say, though, it's visually more appealing to see someone chop chives really fast with a knife. But That was stressful. We have our cube tuna. And now to the sole. Or I should say the flounder in this case. Nice piece of flounder. Here we go. Little guy's back. Oh, I'm over here to get it. Don't be shy, you ate the first one. What, now you don't want it? Fine. Yeah, cats are pretty strange, but I like them. They're, at least from my experience, cats are easy to get along with. They're smart, but aloof. So you can't really train them all that well in my experience, but they figure out what to do pretty quickly. They can be very independent as well. These guys, when I let them outside, they just come back whenever the same day. Maybe they've already eaten something from what they found outside. And even if they don't get inside, they survive outside for up to like a few days if they need to and they can't find their way inside. Cued flounder. Now, I will save this extra fish for something else. I have a bowl down here. All right. So, first, we're gonna add in our fish. First things first, we have to salt it. Yeah. We have 2 dogs here. Sorry, 2 cats and a dog. And the dog is much harder to take care of. All right. So, a little bit of salt. Then we're going to add in jalapenos. Mix it up a little bit. Half the onions. Hey, how's it going? We're making ceviche with flounder and tuna. Some of the plums. Okay, and then all right. Now this acid's going to cook flounder. And you can tell it cooks because the meat becomes a little bit more opaque in color, so a little bit more cloudy. That's just it showing that the proteins are broken down. You can see the same thing with egg whites. When you crack them in a pan, they start off translucent and then they become cloudy. That's because the proteins are broken down and they overlap on each other, which means that light doesn't pass through them as easily, it reflects off of it, which gives you the color white. So, this bowl is done for now. We're gonna leave it on here on the side for plating later. Now, let's work with the tuna. Yeah, that would be something, like a scratch and sniff. Salt it. Okay. And then some jalapenos. Okay, onions. Some of the plums. And even now, it's only been a few minutes. It's slightly turning opaque already. Okay, I'm gonna leave that in there for a bit. All right. Time to work on plating. Fun stuff. Moving locations. All right. So we have a few garnishes to work with here.
Drumming tutorials without Wi-Fi and jam.
Let's start with the Flounder ceviche. Okay. Yeah. That's a good one. A little bit of zest. This would be much easier if I had dry hands. Giving me nothing but shattered dreams. Love this song. Here's the first one. Flounder Ceviche. And the next one.
Listen to Chill Hop with your screen locked and study uninterrupted. Try YouTube Premium on us.
All right. And here is the tuna ceviche. And there we have it. Ceviche, 2 different fish. But there's one more thing I could do. So, I'll bring you back over here for one last fun touch. There you go. Make sure fingers are not there. And there we go. This one isn't all the way. Whoa! Cats are not having a good time right now. This is not a super firm, or not a super soft avocado, but that's perfect for what I want to do. Hopefully this will work well. Gonna try to make a mini avocado fin for each plate.
Download your favorite podcasts and listen uninterrupted.
messing up a little bit, but that's okay. All right. There we go. There we go. That's the final touch. There we go. Now it's all set. And there we go. All right, guys. I think that'll do it. Thank you, everyone who showed up. I really appreciate it. I'm gonna have to take some pictures of this, and then I'm gonna enjoy it. I'll let you guys know how it is.
Back to the streets.